Talking about that vulnerability, because you look at developing economies, with what is happening right now in central banks trying to tame inflation all over the place. Like for the Kenyan economy, we are seeing a struggle with the greenback, for example, which is we're seeing so much outflows from the market. I don't know, from your perspective, first of all, is it similar in Hong Kong? Or what are you doing to sort of maintain that investor confidence?
Yes, interestingly, Hong Kong isn't facing the inflationary environment that we're seeing in so many other parts of the world. And generally speaking, across Asia, inflation isn't as high as it is in other parts of the world. I think some of that goes to the economic fundamentals of the region, the demographics of the region. So we're somewhat insulated, perhaps, from the pressures that you're seeing here in Europe and elsewhere.
That's quite
But of course,
interesting.
policymakers are acutely aware of the challenges, and inflation obviously is something that can very easily globalize.
Yes, definitely. That's quite interesting. Are there some of the measures that you've seen? Of course, this is something that is continual. It's been in the making. If you want to make to manage inflation, it's a long-term game sometimes. But looking at the way the Asian market has been able to sort of maintain inflation, is it something that as developing markets, low-income countries, we can learn from and implement?
That's a good question. In all honesty, it's probably beyond my competence. So I'll find you another colleague who's more expert to talk to you about that at some point in the future.
Thank you for the honesty. I really appreciate that. But it's very important, as you've said, it's a two-way kind of engagement. We learn from your market, you learn from ours. So for the outlook for the year 2023, talk to me about how this year is going to be investment-wise. And you say, different sectors are booming differently. For somebody who's considering to put their money into the Hong Kong market, what avenues are they looking? What should they be paying attention to?
Yeah, well, I think overall, if I look at sentiment in Hong Kong, if I look at sentiment in Asia, it's actually very, very positive. So really in the last 3-4 months, we've seen sentiment move into positive territory almost universally. And I think that is because all of the regional economies have exited COVID measures. And with the movement of goods and services within the region, I think everybody sees a really very strong rebound. Obviously, people are cognizant of a more challenging global economic situation. If we look at Europe in particular, facing very strong economic headwinds. But I think as a region of the world, Asia probably is more confident than perhaps most other parts.
Definitely.
And that's a good reason for businesses here in Kenya to be taking a good close look at what's happening.
I know, because one of the jitters that we've seen in the international markets, what's been happening in the States with some banks. Everyone is all of a sudden, what exactly is happening with this? But Hong Kong, you're at the center of financial technology. And talk to me about some of these concerns that we're seeing. For example, banks collapse, and I've seen the Fed step in sort of to, normalize the situation so that there's not that much panic. In Hong Kong, how do you handle your financial system so that there are no such situations?
Well, I think what we have in Hong Kong is world-class regulation. And it's one of the reasons that Hong Kong is a top 3 international financial centre. So we have 3 key regulators in financial services, the Hong Kong Monetary Authority on the banking side. But that also performs a function as the de facto central bank, because we're obviously not a country, but a special administrative region. Then we have the Securities and Futures Commission, who regulate the securities markets. Very, very important. But we're taking steps actually in digital virtual assets with a new regime being introduced later this year. But again, with guardrails to protect the interests of investors. And then we have the Insurance Authority.
Okay.
But world-class regulation, best practice is absolutely crucial to us as a city. And that goes to the stability of the financial system.
Okay. Let's talk numbers now. How much have we seen Kenyans, invest in Hong Kong, if you have those numbers? And are there targets? Because now I see you in the country trying to mobilize more investment, Kenyans to invest into Hong Kong. Are there targets that you're hoping to hit maybe in the near term?
Good question. The volume of Kenyan investment in Hong Kong is not very large, but we see very large potential. Do we have targets? We do internally. They're not targets that we would put in the public domain.
Yes.
But as an organisation, we have our KPIs. And the fact that we have invested by putting resources on the ground here in Kenya, I think suggests that we think the potential is very real. But it takes time. When people are taking investment decisions, they're not decisions that companies take lightly. So we work with companies over many months, sometimes many years, to help them make those informed decisions. So the fruit of our labours, we might only see in 2 or 3 years down the track.
Okay.
Some might happen much more quickly.
Okay.
Depends on the sector. Fintech could be very fast.
I see. And I'm glad you're having actually a meeting with a lot of fintech players, which is quite vibrant here, equally in Hong Kong. And I'm looking, is this a Kenya thing, or are you doing sort of a rally across Africa?
We have an enhanced focus on Africa. But on this trip, actually, I'm in Kenya and in South Africa. So those are the two markets of highest focus to begin with, where we're going into a very proactive mode. Whereas in the wider picture, we're rather more just looking at responding to the demands from potential investors. But each country has its own advantages and own specialisms. For instance, Egypt, if we look at North Africa, a very vibrant startup ecosystem there. So we go into quite a lot of detail in terms of where we think opportunities are, country by country.
Okay.
But in terms of scale and scale of potential, here in South Africa, top of the list at the moment.
Definitely. Beautiful. As we wrap this up, I know from our conversation, do you feel you've convinced, because sometimes you just need that one person to begin, to take that journey and say, I'm going to look at the Hong Kong market and see what they're all about. Do you feel we've been able to convince an investor to look at the Hong Kong market?
Well, I'm really encouraged by many of the conversations that I've had. I think I've met lots of people who are already very well informed, but feel that they need more ammunition to take what is a big decision. But yeah, I'm really optimistic.
Yes, definitely. Thank you very much, Stephen Phillips. I know you have a Chinese name. What's the pronunciation again?
Fu Zhongsun.
Fu Zhongsun, which is quite interesting. Is it a direct translation of Stephen Phillips?
No, it was chosen for me specially, actually. So it has, there's 3 characters and they have special meanings.
Okay.
All to do with me as an individual. So one day I'll bore you with the details.
That's beautiful, man. Because next time I'm in Hong Kong, I'll look for somebody to give me also a special name. But
we'll
this is
sort
incredible.
that for you.
Thank you very much. Thank you,
Okay.
Stephen Phillips, Director General, Invest Hong Kong, saying that the market is very bullish as we like to call it. And generally, the Asian market has been like that. And they're saying investors consider Hong Kong, looking at the fintech sector, very vibrant. Yeah, the financial technology sector, very vibrant. They're saying that's an opportunity, but it's not a one-way street. So there is that exchange of value. Also, there is that responsibility of looking at Hong Kong investors. What opportunities lie for you here in the Kenyan market? So that it's quid pro quo, as they call it. But that has been the conversation on matters investing in Hong Kong. Thank you very much for watching the show. I'm Noki Pimoy. I leave you with the markets.